The law of reverse effort, the art of not caring, to listen while doing something else. The strength that comes from detachment. There's a silent anguish that squeezes the chest of those who try their utmost to control every outcome and, at the same time, feel their bodies exhausted by the tension of holding the uncontrollable. You push against the current, trying to tame event, and discover that the more force you apply, the more slippery reality becomes. Seneca would compare this to pushing water. Pushing water encourages its return. Yielding to the flow makes the crossing lighter. In this invitation to softness, the law of reverse effort reveals itself as a call to active acceptance. Epictetus whispers that it is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about every burden we carry is the fruit of the value we place on what is beyond our reach. And now, the provocation lingers. What if the greatest act of power was simply letting go of what doesn't depend solely on you? 1. The hidden wound of I need to control everything. In every thought-out gesture, in every meticulously planned scheme, there's a seed of anguish that sprouts silently, the conviction that if something escapes your command, the entire structure will collapse. You feel a tightness in your chest when you realize that obligation has become a burden, an invisible armor that compresses your shoulders and drains the energy that once flowed with lightness. This emptiness corrodes like the slow, insistent erosion of a rock, exposing fissures in motivation and in the joy of conquering. The pattern repeats without warning. The more you try to hold every loose end of life, every detail of a project, every external reaction, every desired outcome, the more everything slips through your fingers. Like water between hands, events return in unexpected waves, reinforcing the belief that absolute control is both a goal and an excuse for a deep fear. Every twist and turn ignites the inner voice that whispers guilt. I failed to keep everything under control, even when in truth, the mere act of trying so hard already demands too much from a human heart. Behind this desire to control everything, a longing for inner peace pulsate. The eagerness to handle everything, to not let a single plate drop, reveals a greater yearning, the relief from the tension that arises when you realize that without taking a deep breath, without allowing for imperfection, there's no space for serenity. It's like trying to hold back the wind, attempting to prevent the leaves from moving without noticing that by relaxing your grip, the air finds its way and you catch your breath. Recognizing this wound is the first step towards embracing the softness of being. When you admit that you don't need to control every ripple, you discover the freedom to choose where to invest your strength and where to simply flow with the current. And by allowing the world to send its waves without fear of drowning, you find yourself firm, not because you imposed unbreakable barriers, but because you learned to rise on the undulation of your own existence. 2. The misunderstood Stoic, effort versus surrender. In many traditions, maximum effort is celebrated as a synonym for virtue, as if the measure of human worth were directly linked to the intensity of every push against an obstacle. You feel the pressure in your chest, believing that the more mental muscles you strain, the more worthy you become of the desired outcome. However, this incessant impulse can distort the Stoic essence, transforming inner strength into unnecessary tension, for not every wall needs to be torn down by brute force. Seneca warned that a serene soul does not crash against the wall. It finds the door that opens with the breath of time. This metaphor reveals that true wisdom is not just about striking with vigor, but about perceiving the right moment to pause, observe, and wait for the context itself to adjust to your journey. Effort without the element of conscious surrender risks generating exhaustion and frustration, for it ignores the natural fluidity of life and the compassionate action of one who connects to the rhythm of event. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. Letting go is redirecting energy to what truly matters, choosing where to invest your attention without wasting fuel on fruitless battles. By recognizing that acceptance is part of virtue, you learn to blend your vigor with the wisdom of flowing, creating a balance that gives strength to persistence without immobilizing the heart. In this space of active surrender, the path opens with greater lightness, allowing your action to be guided by purpose and not merely by the force of an impetus that, without direction, disperses in the wind. 3. The cycle of silent exhaustion. There comes a moment when intense effort ceases to be a driving flame and becomes an ember burning inside, emitting no light. You notice it in tense shoulders, a tight neck, a spine that curves without relief, that carrying the world on your shoulders become a burden. Nights become long, invaded by insomnia, echoing racing thoughts, and your heart races for no apparent reason, as if warning that something is out of sync. This perpetual tension undermines creativity, dulling spontaneity until each day feels like an internal battle fought against oneself. When every morning awakens shrouded in fatigue, even the simplest tasks require Herculean effort. Bitter coffee barely goes down the esophagus as the mind is already rehearsing future scenarios, projecting unattainable goals that rise like insurmountable mountains. You find yourself fighting against ghosts of productivity, feeling guilt grow faster than any achieved result. And in this exhausting dance, the energy spent maintaining performance slows down the rhythm of living itself, like a river that, overloaded, no longer finds the strength to flow onward. The cycle closes when, even exhausted, you insist on taking the next step, pushing against the door that insists on remaining closed. Every new attempt reinforces the belief that the insurmountable barrier is your fault, and the body responds with constant headache, renewed insomnia, and palpitations like a muted drum. And then the mind silently asks, how long will it keep hammering the same door, expecting it to yield to the push of an effort that has already turned into exhaustion? In the echo of that question, the urgency to break the cycle arises, recognizing that extra hours of effort don't guarantee progress, but only exhaust vitality. By accepting that at times it's necessary to take a step back to catch your breath, you open up space for serenity to return to your chest. And when the body and mind find a truce, creativity is reborn, inspiration flows, and the will to live realigns with the purpose that motivated the initial effort. 4. Stoic practice. The open hand ritual. Upon waking, feel the weight of the recently abandoned bed and the slight tingling of your body, awakening to a new day. Inhale softly, filling your chest with air, and as you exhale, imagine the palm of your hand opening like a flower, releasing a petal to the wind, internally releasing all anxiety, all worry, and all expectation that insists on clinging to you. This symbolic gesture, repeated for 2 minutes, teaches the body and mind not to contract in the face of tensions, but to welcome the flow of life, open hand, and a light heart. Throughout the day, whenever you feel the grip of excessive control or the weight of an outcome beyond your reach, close your eyes for an instant, breathe, and visualize that open hand again, releasing the imaginary object that binds. At the end of the night, in a moment of silence, jot down in a few lines a situation in which you allowed detachment to guide the outcome. Perhaps you let go of control over a dialogue and discovered a better solution, or you trusted in time and saw the problem resolve itself. Effort. Recording this unexpected but calm outcome reinforces the lesson that letting go of the rope doesn't mean falling into emptiness, but raising the inner anchor, allowing the ship of your life to move more lightly towards what truly matters. 5. Revealing metaphor, sailor and the tide. Imagine an experienced navigator who, facing contrary winds, does not insist on rowing with all his might against the wave, but adjusts his sails to let the current guide the boat with light. The wise sailor knows the power of the tide. By cooperating with external forces, he gains speed without unnecessary wear, feeling the hull glide through the water with grace instead of fighting against the liquid chaos. This image evokes the art of not caring, not out of disdain, but from the profound understanding that by releasing the rigid rope of control, we allow the natural flow to lead us to the right destination. When the wind howls strong and the waters churn, the steady sailor does not despair. He merely adjusts the rudder and loosens the rigging, recognizing that resistance only generates tension and fatigue. In this movement, the true symphony of reverse effort is found. Letting go is not weakness, but a strategy that transforms contrary motion into favorable impetus. You feel in your body the release of tension with every readjusted sail, and in your heart, the serene confidence of one who navigates life without carrying the burden of an oar, always raised against the current. And now, faced with the inner invitation, which sail do you need to loosen today so that your boat finds its course without Herculean effort, the opportunity arises to apply the lesson of the sea, to choose where to hold firm and where to surrender the helm to the tide so that the path reveals itself with more clarity and less wear, guided by the harmony between your power of choice and the wisdom of flowing, raising the anchor of the soul. Seneca warns us that nothing is as heavy as a soul that carries the uncontrollable, and these words sound like a gentle invitation to choose where to put your effort. By understanding the law of reverse effort, you discover that the fragility of trying to hold on too tight weighs more than the courage to let go of what doesn't belong to you. Marcus Aurelius would remind us that you have power over your reaction, not over event, highlighting the serene freedom that springs when you detach from what you can't control and focus on what you can transform. Each time the mind turns off the engine of excessive control and allows itself to be carried by the well-directed current, a silent advance is born that echoes in the tranquility of your being. And now, reflecting on the image of the sailor adjusting the sails in harmony with the tide, the final question emerges, reverberating deep within. What if, instead of fighting the tide, you learn to surf it?